Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is Robin Williams with another lab for you. Today we've got quite a simple lab. It's a nice little EIGRP authentication exercise for you. So what we've got here, 3 devices in the topology, R1, R2 and R3. What we're first going to do is set up neighbour relationships between R1 and R2, neighbour relationship between R1 and R3. Once those neighbour relationships have established, we're then going to configure some authentication on this link here, and we're also going to create a separate piece of authentication on this link here as well. So without further ado, let's get into the lab. So first thing we need to do is obviously configure EIGRP itself. So hopefully you know how to do that by now. Go into router config mode, type in the name of the AS that you want. Now, a neat little trick you can do with EIGRP or any routing protocol, as far as I'm aware, is if you've got multiple interfaces like we have here, we've got the fast Ethernet 00 and the fast Ethernet 10. Instead of individually typing in the networks that you want, if you want to enable the protocol on every interface on the device, if you just put in a series of 4 zeros space followed by 4 zeros for the mask, that enables EIGRP on all the interfaces on the device. So if I go over to router 2, go into conf mode, into router configuration mode. Remember, we have to be in the same AS for EIGRP. Now I'm going to do this one using the zeros method. Not that it saves us any time at all. In fact, it probably costs us time if there's only a single interface to do. And then we're going to hop over onto router 3, and we're just going to set EIGRP up on this one as well. And I'm just going to do it using the interface address in this one, or network I should say. So there's that one. So what we should say is the adjacencies form. Yep, okay. There we go. So let's just have a quick look and see what we can see. Yep, so he's got a relationship. The easiest way to actually take a look at it is over on router 1. And you see both adjacencies are formed there. Okay. Right, so now that we've got all these guys talking to each other, what we're going to do is we're first off going to configure authentication on this side, and then we're going to configure authentication between 1 and 3. And if you can see, the authentication between 1 and 2 is going to use the password of Albion. Configure authentication between 1 and 3 is going to use the password Cisco. So we'll start by going onto the hub again, and that seems to be our central point. Now the first thing you do after going into configuration mode is you must set up a keychain. So let's just type the word in key. Keychain, and then just for the name that you want. So on this side we're going to call this one, we'll call this one chain 1, and we'll call the other side chain 2. So you could give the keychain a name, tell it which key you're now going to configure, which in this case will be key 1, and then just create the password using the keyword key string. On this side we're using the password Albion. Okay. I'm going to set up the second string now as well. So we just do the same process again. Keychain, keychain, chain 2. Just a little bit of apologies if you hear some background noise. We've got a really big storm where I am in the UK at the moment. Bins are flying around everywhere and whatever. So if you hear glass crashing, it's not somebody trying to raid the house. It's probably just a trash can or something flying through the window. Keychain, keychain 2. So we go into tell it which key we're going to now use. Key 1. and key string, which is where we put the password in, and in this case it's Cisco. Okay, so now we've set up our keychains. Okay, what we next need to do, we need to go into the interfaces. I'll just revert you back to the topology for a second. We're now going to configure this interface here, and we're going to tell it how we're going to authenticate. Well, first off, we need to tell it that it's going to use authentication, then tell it how we're going to authenticate. So to tell it you're going to use authentication, it's IP authentication mode. Guess what's coming next? EIGRP, the autonomous system number, and then have a look at your options. The only option you have is MD5. I just want to see if you try to do it without the MD5 command, the router rejects it. The reason is EIGRP only does MD5 authentication. You cannot do a plain text authentication on MD5. Another quick side note for you is that when you set this authentication up, you are not encrypting any packets as far as the data flow is concerned. All you're doing is encrypting the key exchange between the two devices for setting up the EIGRP relationship. As soon as we hit return on here now, what you see is the neighbor relationship between 1 and 2 has been torn down. That's what this message here is telling you. The reason it's gone down, pardon me, is because there is now an authentication method defined on one side, but there is not an authentication method or a password defined on the other side. So getting back to it, we've told this interface that we want to use a method of authentication. We're now going to tell it which key to use. So if we go back into the interface again, IP authentication. Now if you remember, there were two options. You have mode or keychain. So now we use keychain. We then tell it that we're going to apply it to the EIGRP instance, in our case EIGRP1, and then I believe it's just the chain one. So we've now said to it, this interface, we're going to use MD5 EIGRP authentication. We're going to use the keychain, chain 1, and within the chain itself here we have this key string. Okay, so that's on R1 that we've done that. Okay, so if we go to R2 now, okay, we will then set up the same on this side. And the first thing we need to do is create a keychain. I believe we called this chain 1. Yeah. Tell it key 1, and the key string was Albion. Okay, so that's the key itself set up, key chain and key string. We then go into the interface, because remember this has got a match on both sides. Do you remember what comes next? It's EIGRP, that's correct. And MD5, just bear in mind you must always put that MD5 at the end. Bit of a strange one in my opinion. If it's only going to relate to MD5, I don't know why they just don't build it straight into the authentication command. But there you go. So again, IP authentication keychain, tell it you want to apply it to EIGRP1, and then which chain you're going to use. Okay, and straight away, see how quick EIGRP is? Straight away we have that neighbor adjacency form. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to router 1 now. Okay, we've already set up the chain but we now need to, for the other side, what we need to do is we need to go to the interface and tell the interface that it's going to use the key. Again, you see the neighbor relationship breakdown. Okay. And I believe we called this side chain 2, if I'm correct. Yeah. Did I put the... Yes, I've already created the key string on this one, haven't I? I was just doing the interface. Okay, so if we now go over to R3. Okay. As you can see, you cannot have spaces in the chain name. Bear in mind that everything's got to match either side, okay? So that's the key itself set up. Go onto the interface, connecting to the device. Oh, nearly forgot. You've got to tell it which mode you want IP. Authentication. Mode. EIGRP. EIGRP. I'm creating my own protocols here. And again, you have to say to it, the keychain for EIGRP will be chain 2. Okay, and again, pretty instantaneously, you see the adjacency come up. So we can just prove this. If we go back to router 1, okay, let's have a quick look. There we have both adjacencies come up. You can see this is the adjacency with router 3. It's just come up. And this is the adjacency with router 2, which came up 3 or 4 minutes ago. Okay then, so that's basically how to configure EIGRP authentication. You can do some other quite funky stuff like rotating keys and sort of having keys expire and have them replaced with other keys and stuff like that. Maybe I can do a lab on that later on. Hopefully that's been informative to you, and enjoy your labs, and don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.